So we've known each other for, probably what, 2018, I think is the first time we talked, actually, if I'm not mistaken. So you've really created a pretty freaking cool thing over there with Revolutionary. I mean, it's been like a lot. It seemed like a lot of growth in a short period of time that you guys have seen.
Yeah. It's one of those things. 2018 is exactly when it was.
Yeah.
Because I come from a fitness background, like, you and I discussed in the very beginning. And I kind of just fell into dog training after I sold the gym that I had. I was going to take off a couple months. I was interviewing with some big companies to do one of those deals where I go into factories and larger companies and talk to them about health and wellness.
Yeah.
And if that was in my background, that's what I went to school for. I was like, yeah, we'll do that. And then it started to get to me to where I didn't want to go talk to somebody about health and wellness if they really didn't want to hear about it, So I just said, I'm going to take the next couple of months off. I'll see what I'm going to do. I did okay with the sale of the gym. So I had some time.
Yeah.
And I would work on the house, and I literally would go to Lowe's every other day, buy supplies, come back and work on the house. And that's just kind of what it did. I turned into Bob Vila for like 3 weeks. And I was at Lowe's with one of my Rottweilers, and I still have him. And he's, very well trained off leash. I trained bird dogs back in the day, so I had a concept of how to train a pet dog and a bird dog. But so I just trained him, but he would go with me to Lowe's every day. And the funny thing about this is him and I were walking through the aisles. He was off leash. I was just grabbing stuff, putting it on my cart. And this guy kept following me around. About the fifth aisle that we were on together, I just kind of looked, and my personality won't let me not say anything. So I said, man, we must have the same list. Every time I turn around, you're right behind me. And he's like, no, man. And we chuckled about it, but he said, man, honestly, I'm just watching your dog. He's like, I've never seen a Rottweiler out in public, because down here we have an immense amount of pit bulls, Rottweilers, but they all have very negative connotations, when it comes to the breeds. So he said, I'd never seen a dog like that out in public, let alone off a leash and doing everything that he's supposed to do. Can I ask you who trained him? And I said, well, I trained him. And so about that time, he sat there for a second. He said, so you're a dog trainer? I said, no, I'm not a dog trainer. I just train my own dog. And he was like, man, would you be interested in training my Cane Corso? And I was like, yeah, I've got nothing to do. He's like, well, what would you charge for that? I was like, I don't even know, And so I don't know, man, give me a couple $100 and a bag of dog food, and we'll call. And so the next day, that was on a Sunday. The next day, Monday, he brought that dog out here to my house. Before I had any kennels, I didn't even have a crate, right? And so he brought this dog to me, gave me $200 and a bag of dog food, and the dog stayed with me for 2 weeks. I literally just did the same exact thing, just piddled around the house with this dog, took him out in public. And the guy came and picked the dog up. I did what is now our take-home sessions with him and said, man, and it was really a whole bunch of, this is what I would do. It's kind of, I didn't really speak from a position of authority or as a professional. I just said, hey, man, this is what you can do in the meantime or whatever. Yeah. And the dog turned out very, very well. So he was super excited about it. He ended up telling a handful of people. They called my cell phone and go, hey, looking for the dog trainer. Yeah. I was like, well, I guess that's me. So, and next thing you know, they started bringing their dogs, and those people told more people, and those people told more people. And that was about the time I said, we got to get a name. We got to figure out a name. We got to get some insurance if I'm going to have everybody else's dogs on the property. Yeah. And I started seeking out people that were in the industry that I saw that they knew what they were doing, and which you were one of those. And so that's when I reached out to you and said, hey, would it be cool if we had a conversation, do like a personal training session where you just kind of walk me through some general concepts of owning a dog training business. And then we kind of went from there. And that really, after we had that conversation, I started implementing some of the things that you were talking about. And then I found some schools to get into. I found some seminars to go to. I found some clinics to go to. And me having an addictive personality was perfect because I just jumped in with 2 feet and I started rolling with it. And at this point, we have we train 20, we run 20 board and trains through our monthly 4-week board and train. And we try to keep it to where there's 15 adult dogs and like 5 to 6 puppies, right? Because we have a puppy imprinting program, and I've got a staff of 8 now.
Yeah.
And I have been very fortunate to have surrounded myself with really good people, very responsible people. And it's allowed me to get away from the pets just a little bit. And I've gotten into detection, narcotics, explosive detection, tracking. Matter of fact, this morning we are having and we were just out tracking this morning.
Yeah.
And it's really allowed for me to step away from pets just a little bit. I still have my hands in it enough to make sure that everything is good to go. And I still do all the intake. I still do all the take home stuff right now. But yeah, so we've grown leaps and bounds, man, where we've have several dogs now in departments, some local, which is really cool because they get to come every week and train here. But yeah, ever since we spoke originally, I would say things have just been skyrocketing. And I think I got into it at a good time because now it seems like everywhere you turn, there's a new dog trainer popping up.
Yes.
But they don't necessarily want to go through the same steps that I took and probably you took.
Yeah.
In to gain that knowledge base. And I think they're trying to jump into it a little bit prematurely and say, oh, I can take all of this and do exactly what David's doing, do exactly what Miracle's doing, or do exactly what Revolutionary Canine is doing. And that's just not the case if you don't have that base of knowledge.
Yeah. 100%. And it's interesting because, like, you know, you kind of have your 2 types of avenues you can go as a dog trainer, right? So you have the avenue that a lot of the people you'll see online now are taking, which is they basically run a dog training business out of their house, right? They take in 2 or 3 board and trains at a time. They go out, they do one-on-one sessions, and they are working all the time, right? And listen, like, I mean, we're working all the time and stuff like that, but you've found a way, and what we've tried to do is we found a way to scale it, right? Where we've actually created a business, you know what I mean? And a business that we could work on and help to, assist as many owners, as many dogs, create opportunities and jobs for people, obviously, and kind of go through those motions with things. And that was one of the things I was really interested to speak with you about, because you've grown that so quick, you know? And a lot of this, I think one of the first or second times we had spoken, you know, your background in the gym things really helped you a lot because you had the business side of things kind of down, where like I was coming into it, I had no business experience. So I had to make a ton of freaking mistakes as far as the growing, the scaling side of things, where you were able to really hit the ground running with that. And it seemed like you had a pretty clear trajectory and path with where you wanted to go with it. So how did the growth part kind of start with you? Obviously you started, I'm just doing it out of my house. I'm taking a couple board and trains in, I'm working with dogs. At what point did you see, okay, we need to hire help, we're going to hire additional trainers now? Like, how did you justify and kind of plan those things in your mind?
So everything is a zero plan, right? Sure. I appreciate you saying, it seemed like you had a pretty good idea about, you know, what's going on in your trajectory and things of that nature. But keep in mind, when I opened the gym in 2008 during a recession,
sure,
right? But I literally, everything I do is out of 2 things. Well, which everything in life is derived around fear of at some point, right? Fear of having, fear of not being able to do whatever, fear of, you know, this, that, and the other. So I was a personal trainer at a gym, and I literally started doing the math. I was like, look, I'm paying this guy 60% of my take just to be inside of his facility, and I'm using my own equipment, right? Because I was big into calisthenics, I was big into kettlebells, flipping tires, things of that nature, stuff that I would buy from a hardware store. These, you know, soccer moms would come in and they'd bang on a tire with a sledgehammer for 30 minutes and pay me $100, you know? But it's one of those things that I was able to create a culture with that people just wanted to do. And then I quickly realized, man, this, you know, they're paying X amount of dollars. I'm only getting this, and I'm not using anything out of this gym. So it got to the point to where, because my wife at the time was not working, she was 100% going to school. So I was the 100% bringing in the total income of the house. And dude, I was literally, I guarantee you, man, I was 30 days away from getting my truck repossessed. You know, that's just kind of because everything was being stretched so thin. And I just had to make a move, you know, and I said, okay, this is what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to tell all of my clients, I will be at this address to train. If you want to train, come to this address, but bring I will make good on all the money that you paid the gym. So if you still have sessions left over, I will do those, and you'll just keep that gym money there. But after that, those sessions are up, you will pay me, and you will pay for the entire month. So if you're training twice a week, you're going to pay me for 8 sessions, whatever. And so, man, dude, 99% of all my clientele did that. And so right off the bat, I immediately went from, man, I don't know how I'm going to pay my car payment to, wow, there's, you know, $15,000 in the bank account, you know? And so from there, I was able to buy more equipment. You know, I was no longer robbing Peter to pay Paul, and I started to develop a gym business. So when that came into the dog training world, I literally, because I can be super ghetto. Like when you don't grow up with a whole lot, you can make anything work, right? So I took on this first board and train, and the $200 that he gave me, I went and bought a crate. Right. Crate. And I bought some leashes and other things. I spent that whole $200 on that dog. So I made zero money for the dog. But then what that did is that set me up. So when the next dog came in, I bought another crate. And the next dog came in. Now I was making money, right? Because, or, you know, somewhat making money. I can remember you saying, got to raise your rates. You can't continue to operate for, you know, $100 a week.
I think you were charging like $400 for like a 2-week board and train or something like that.
Right. That was actually me going, you know, I was scared to death. But where I really started seeing growth and where I really figured I needed some help with this thing was one day I didn't have a system. I didn't have anything in place. All I will call, hey, can you train my dog? Yes, bring your dog. Like there was no monthly sign up. There was no kind of infrastructure for me to keep up with anything. And dude, I literally walked. I'll never forget this day. I got up in the morning. I went downstairs where I have a 2-car garage that's been bricked in, and I had 23 dogs. And
you're like, fuck, it's a lot.
It's too much,
dude.
Right?
I had that same moment one time. I remember we opened our second facility at the time, right? So like we had one on like the east side of Cleveland, one on the west side of Cleveland, and the west side of Cleveland one, I was going to kind of spearhead it, right? And I moved into that space, so it was basically like I was, you know, working out of my house, right? And I remember, I think it was day 2. In that space, we moved all the board and trains and stuff over there, and that was going to be like the behind the scenes training facility. And same deal. I remember walking downstairs. I woke up in the morning, and all the dogs are freaking out. And I walked downstairs, and same deal. I think at the time there was like maybe 12 dogs there, 13 dogs there, something like that. And I remember just like having like this mental breakdown for like 10 minutes where I was just like, what the fuck did I just get myself into, kind of thing. Because keep in mind, I jumped into things originally back in, was it 2015, maybe something like that, with a business partner, with a couple employees already and stuff like that, where, you know, I was working a shit ton, right? But I had support the whole time. So it was kind of like taking a step back to, you know, experiencing what you had to experience at the very, very beginning of things. And that was an extremely humbling moment to me, you know? And that was when I really realized also, like, creating a business, right? And having help and not doing things myself, like all of those types of investments you can make in your company, how impactful those things are, you know? Like, you know, not having 8 employees, right? At this point, you probably couldn't physically get all the work done, obviously. But like, you know, you could, you know, reduce the numbers a little bit and keep your profits a little bit higher and put more money in your pocket. But it's like, man, that like quality of life of just working 24/7 and just having the nonstop freaking requirement, especially in an industry like the dogs where you have to care for them throughout the entire day, obviously, it's extremely overwhelming, you know? And I think one of the number one things that I have like newer trainers call me about is getting help, right? Like, you know, how do I start to bring employees on, right? How do I alleviate some of that like pressure that I'm feeling, you know, throughout this and stuff like that? So yeah, anyways, go ahead. Sorry. So you had that moment, you walked down 23 dogs, obviously. Holy shit, what's going on here? Got to get some help.
Yeah. how you had that mental breakdown, that was exactly the same thing. That's the thing I experienced. And I feel like I'm a mentally strong individual.
Sure.
Like, once I got to that point, and it was like, and I was sitting there and all these dogs were barking. I look around the room, you know, a dog's looking out the crate like this with a big old pile of shit on its nose. This is not going to be good for me to continue to do this. So what I started doing at that point is I continued, just a second. I might have hold on for me a second.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
I'm on the podcast. What's up? He's probably in the crate. Yep. Okay. Yes, I guess I just think I'm sitting in my car in the AC. I don't know.
Just relaxing. Yeah. Get back to work, Kris. Come on.
Hey, I got to take a phone call around 10:15 or so. I'll be in my car, and then he comes up and he's like, "Oh, I didn't know you were on the phone." Anyway, you know. But back to what I was saying. At that moment, it was a very surreal. Okay, now what are you going to do now? It's not like you can. There's nobody coming, right? And that's kind of been the motto for life. Is like there's nobody coming to help you. You just need to deal with this. But David, that's the thing, man. I love that pressure.
Sure.
I'm on it. But at the same time, I have this sense of if something's going to mess up, it's going to 100% be on me.
100%.
Want to have that. I don't want to be able to say, well, so-and-so didn't do so-and-so. Like it's 100% on me. So when I had that moment, I walked out of the room for just a second.
Yeah.
I got my I had that mental, like, hey man, this is what you got to do.
This is a lot.
And it literally, man, I just started rolling and, dude, the whole, like I swear to God, man, if one of those dogs would have had like an intestinal parasite, they would have all had it because I was just covered in crap. And I was grabbing dogs and slinging them and we were going. And, you know, after that 2-week period, I was like, never again I have that experience.
100%. Yeah.
So I want to say we even had our second phone call after that. And it was at that moment I was like, you know what, I'm going to price, not to say this in a demeaning way, but I'm going to price some of these people out of this. Yeah. You know, I'm going to price myself to where I don't have so many dogs, and the dogs I do have, I know I'm making it's well worth it. You know what I mean? So
it's got to be.
And it was after that moment where I said, okay, I've got to start getting a system in place. So that's where our property is. We have 14 outdoor runs with fans and beds and things of that nature. And I actually started building my property from right to left. So I would take the dogs out of the house, put them into the outdoor runs on concrete with their mats. And that would be a way for me to have a little bit of reprieve.
Yep.
And I started dogs going out there. I would get all the dogs out. I would make sure they had fresh water, do their thing, and then I would train them right back in.
Mm-hmm.
And if I had to have baths, I would bathe them right there in the kennel, dry them off real good, do a training session, and take them right back inside. So I developed this systematic approach to training that many dogs where it wasn't so aggravating. And then once I got through that time in my life, I said, you know what, I'm going to try to find somebody to help, but I have to find somebody that understands the system that I'm teaching. So it was very fortunate for me at the time that I had a young girl that brought her dog through the program. So she came and visited, and she came and did the handler sessions and things like that with me, really started to grasp the concept. And so I just pitched the idea, hey, look, you know, would you like to work here? And she was like, at your house? And I was like, yes. And so we eventually she hired her on. And so now I had that one other person. And we built a little training building. We've got a 50 by 30 building that is insulated, AC'd, and all that kind of fun stuff. So she basically helped me work through all this dogs. And then from there, we started getting bigger and bigger and bigger. She's no longer with the company, but from that spawned getting more employees and being able to pay them a competitive rate. And that way it's less hassle on everybody.